and the research on the Omicron variant will form part of our center's initiatives. Lastly, we have been and continue to engage all countries that have imposed what we term unscientific and discriminatory travel bans on our country and region. We hope that our diplomacy will bear greater fruit. Some countries have indicated their intention to lift restrictions, which are inflicting much harm on our economy, on our society, and on families. What is sad for us is that we now know that the Omicron variant had long been present in many of the countries that have banned us, and yet they said nothing and have ignored signs and warnings from the World Health Organization and the United Nations in terms of clinical responses to the pandemic and the avoidance of travel bans. And they have thus imposed a terrible ban, an apartheid travel ban on South Africa and Southern African countries. In this year, we also launched the Charlotte Maxeke African Women's Economic Justice and Rights Initiative. We will use this as DIRCO's contribution to the empowerment of women and girls in the global agenda of generation equality, of economic justice, peace, security, reconstruction, and development. Ladies and gentlemen, this brief summary of our work doesn't encapsulate all the work we've done this year. Our diplomats work tirelessly on a daily basis to introduce our country as a trade, investment, and tourism destination to all the citizens in countries in which they are located. I've been very pleased at observing the work being done by many of the heads of mission and their officials in the countries I had the opportunity to visit this year as travel began to get underway. I believe the missions of South Africa are playing an important role in contributing to us fighting against poverty, inequality, and unemployment in our country and on the continent, because they serve as an important mechanism for presenting the African opportunity to the world. I thank you very much for your interest and attention today. Thank you very much, DDG Monyela. That is the end of my statement.
Thank you very much, Minister. Much appreciated. We now, colleagues, have an opportunity to take questions. I am going to request that journalists raise their hands. And those of you who are unable to do so, please utilize the chat room. Just type in your question, we'll be able to see it and pose the question to the Minister. Let me also just acknowledge the presence of our Acting Director General, Ambassador Losi, who is in the meeting. This briefing is now live on several platforms, including Ubuntu Radio. Peter Fabricius, Kaya Kumalo, and Karine Duplessis, in that order, please. That will be the first round.
Thank you very much, Clayson, and thank you very much to the Minister for your comprehensive briefing. Could I just ask about the state of relations with Botswana, Minister, and have they been impaired by this continuing row over the allegations of money laundering and so on against Bridget Motsepe, and the fact that even though the case has been pulled in Botswana, they're still pursuing legal action in this country? Thank you.
Kaya? Kaya, you muted. Okay, let's go to Karine. We'll come back to Kaya.
Hi, good morning, Minister, and good morning, Clayson. I hope you can hear me. I have I have two questions, Minister. One on the travel restrictions by the UK and other countries on Omicron. We've seen China effectively. Well, it's very difficult to travel to China, and we haven't seen Chinese tourists come here, I think, for close to 2 years now. I just want to know, what has the effect been of travel restrictions from China's side, and what is South Africa's view on this? Have we been quietly lobbying the country to open travel? I mean, they're close to all countries, but it's been harming us in Africa, and we're close allies with China. And then my second question is, I just want to know why Prof. Ndwaba's name's been withdrawn as candidate for the International Labour Organization, DG, after Cabinet agreed. What happened after that? Why was it withdrawn? Thank you very much.
Kaya, shall we try again before we get Minister to respond? All right, we're not winning. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much. The relations with Botswana continue to be positive at a government-to-government level. I have very good interaction and consistent interaction with my colleague, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Botswana, and he has never raised this case with me. So I'm unable to make any comment on the particular case. I've been in meetings between President Ramaphosa and President Masisi. At no time did President Masisi raise this matter in meetings he held. Well, when I was present, I don't know what they may say when it's just the two of them, but I do have interaction. I was recently speaking to Minister Kwape about the opening of one of the borders, which had remained closed for some time. And we've not really gone into what is a legal matter that the Botswana government is involved in, just as we wouldn't expect them to start, being concerned about raising cases that our government might be pursuing about particular individuals. So our relations remain positive. We are countries that do relate to each other very, very well. And that is all I can say at this moment. I think the Chinese restrictions have been general restrictions. They're not targeted at particular countries. And certainly we would like to see a greater opening of travel, because as you know, tourism is so important to our country. And we also have significant numbers of Chinese companies investing in South Africa, but broadly on the African continent as well. We do raise these matters with my colleague, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, when we have an opportunity to speak. And I hope that the situation of travel will be eased. I think China has decided to exercise great care in the management of the pandemic and tends to react very strongly when instances of new internal infections arise. So I hope that as more and more of our citizens get vaccinated, and as vaccination also is achieved of a large number for immunity in China, we will see a greater opening up and a restoration of tourism and people-to-people contact. I'm glad that at the level of exports, business has been continuing, but we really would want to see people-to-people exchange. On Professor Ndwaba, I was not in the cabinet meeting where the decision was taken. I understand a statement was made that something was brought to the attention of the cabinet, and this caused cabinet to decide to withdraw its support. Because remember, Professor Ndwaba is applied as an individual, and we had indicated support for his candidature. So we withdrew our support for his candidature. Thank you very much. I think I've answered the questions.
Yes, Minister, thank you very much. Shall we then see if there are still hands and questions? I'm checking. Kaya, are you now able to speak? Your mic is still muted. Should we give you another opportunity? No. Something's happening there at the SABC. We need to send IT experts to come and assist you. Karin?
Thanks, Jason. Seeing that people have been quiet and muted, I have another question regarding Israel, Minister. You mentioned about the accreditation of Israel to the AU, and I know that South Africa's been lobbying countries, and I was quite interested in the Kenyan Prime Minister's pronouncement saying, the Kenyan President's pronouncement saying that, all the countries should have been taken along on this decision. I just want to know, in terms of lobbying individual countries to support us, how is that effort going by South Africa, or to support our position? How is that effort going by South Africa, and will we be meeting with the DRC president at any time soon to lobby our position there? Thank you.
Minister, before you answer, let's just get the last question from Peter. Peter, you'll be the last.
Okay, thank you, Clayson. Yeah, I wonder if you could tell us what is happening about Lesotho. It seems to me that there's a great deal of turbulence and instability below the surface, and there have been calls by some commentators in that country for President Ramaphosa in his capacity as special envoy of SADC to intervene quite urgently, as the situation seems to be destabilizing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On the Israel matter, yes, certainly we've been talking to other member states and indicating to them our objection. We have the support of SADC countries. We have a resolution of the SADC summit, and we've been speaking to other countries. The heads of state will discuss the matter. We couldn't agree as ministers on this matter at the Executive Council, and we avoided going to a vote on the matter and decided that we would refer it as a divisive matter for Africa and the Union to the heads of state to finally resolve it. The matter had not come before us formally. In fact, even putting it on the agenda, we had to argue very strongly for it to be placed on the agenda of the Executive Council. So yes, certainly it's something we hope the heads of state will give us proper direction on, and we continue to believe it's a decision taken by the AU Commission Chair, which must be reversed. On Lesotho, I think that our president will, early in the year, find time to visit Lesotho. We had got a very positive report on progress with the reform discussions that have been underway in Lesotho, and with implementation of the agreed and negotiated outcome of the discussions between the various parties and stakeholders. I think once the court process relevant to charges that related to incidents in 2017, 19, and 20 got underway, that's when you begin to get this evidence of instability. And I think the management of that process of addressing the incidents that occurred, the killing, other actions that offended the Lesotho constitution and laws, the management of that process is something that I think President Ramaphosa and the support team led by retired Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke needs to discuss with the Lesotho government. I have drawn President's attention to the need for him to urgently pay a visit to that country so that we don't lose the momentum and progress that had been achieved. Thanks, Clayson.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think with that, we've come to the end of this briefing. I see Lunga wants to say something. Lunga? All right, must be.
DTG, sorry, DTG. Kai has just sent the questions to me, so I don't know if I can just read them to Minister.
Yeah, please go ahead.
He's asking, Minister. The first one is on Zimbabwe special permits. Are you in touch with your counterpart in Harare about Pretoria's decision to discontinue a permit? The second one is, what will be Pretoria's priorities next year in advancing peace and security? Those are the two questions from Kaya Kumar. He just sent another one. The last one is the concern. How concerned are you about the situation in Ethiopia? Those are the three questions. Thank you, TTG.
Okay. Thank you. The first one, am I in touch with my colleague, the Foreign Minister Shava of Zimbabwe, on the permits? No, he has not contacted me. I believe that Zimbabwe is aware of South Africa's intentions, because the Minister of Home Affairs would certainly have had interaction with his colleague in Zimbabwe, but it's not a matter that Minister Shava and I have taken up. On priorities for peace and security, clearly they would be continuing to pay attention to SAMIM and its progress, the mission in Mozambique of SADC, and also paying attention to developments in Lesotho. I think our region is one that we regard as a region that we wish to keep peaceful, stable, and secure. And so ensuring that the national reform agenda, as appropriated by the National Reform Authority, is executed in Lesotho peacefully and with the full participation of all the people of Lesotho would be very, very important. We also have offered assistance to the Libyan authorities with the electoral processes in Libya. We're not certain, as we had indicated to them earlier this year when I met them in New York, that December would allow them time for the necessary administrative arrangements to be done. I informed them of the assistance South Africa had given to the Central African Republic in preparing for its election. Our IEC played a very important role there, and we offered similar assistance to Libya. So paying close attention to developments in Libya and being on hand and ready to provide support is something that I think we will certainly give attention to. We also would be working closely, as you know, as chair of the organ. We already have begun discussions with Eswatini and have a commitment at a SADC supported national dialogue in which the king and other stakeholders would participate. And so clearly we would want to honor that undertaking, which is part of the organ Troika agreement with Eswatini. And I think Sudan is extremely important. We've had participation in a Friends of Sudan set of meetings where South Africa offered expertise of South Africans that negotiated the constitutional framework of South Africa to the transitional authority in Sudan. And I hope that they will take up that offer and support that South Africa is ready to make available. So peace on the African continent would be extremely important. But I think as well, to achieve peace, there must be development. So continuing to ensure access to the special drawing rights agreed in the context of G20 for lower and middle income countries is a very key area in which South Africa must remain vigilant and ensure that commitments made are actually honored and that we do have access as developing countries to that $100 billion special drawing rights agreement that has been on the table for many months. I think that answers it. On Ethiopia, obviously we remain concerned at developments in Ethiopia. President Ramaphosa is in touch with his colleague, and we are encouraging negotiations and efforts toward achieving an outcome that leads to peace and stability, access to humanitarian support, and the laying down of arms. And that would be our desire for the people of Ethiopia. And we will work toward that and have made it clear in our interaction with them that that is what South Africa desires and hopes to support. I also think one of the areas in which I am concerned we don't do enough on is what we call post-conflict reconstruction. South Africa did a lot of work in supporting the achievement of a peaceful settlement in South Sudan, but we've not fully followed through to ensure post-conflict there actually is development. So I do think post-conflict reconstruction is something, as the South African Department of International Relations, we need to pay very close attention to. And of course, elections and the practice of democracy on the continent is another area that we must have regard to. Thanks very much, Clayson.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let me at this point then thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister Mashego Dlamini, the members of the Diplomatic Corps who have joined us here today, our acting DG, as well as members of the media. This brings us to the conclusion of this briefing. Just to say that the conversation on South Africa's foreign policy and how the department conducts its work and implements the country's foreign policy continues on our social media platforms. You can follow DIRCO on Twitter, on Facebook, and we also continue on a daily basis to have conversations with regular webinars and interviews on Ubuntu Radio. You can follow that station on www.ubunturadio.com. It's also accessible on the DSTV audio bouquet channel 888. We will be alerting you to the next briefing early on in the new year. Thank you very much for joining us here today. This brings us to the end of the briefing. Thank you, and do have a good day further.
And I wish you all a happy festive season, a safe one, and please make sure you are safe from COVID-19 and vaccinate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.